breach in 5, 4, 3.
What's up, guys? I'm Uncle Freedom, coming to you on another glorious and well-deserved day off. Rocking one of my new affiliates of the channel. This is Howitzer Clothing, and in fact, if you go onto my Linktree account, there's actually one that says the pants I wear to the range all the time, and it's their Scout pants. Freaking things are awesome. Anyway, that's the end of my paid shill endorsement, if you will. So guys, I figured we'd talk about something that I've mentioned a bunch of times, but people have actually been asking about a lot lately, which is shaking out your gear. I always tell people you need to shake out your gear and equipment because there are things that don't always work no matter how much money we spend on them. And it's important that we take a second, shake that stuff out, and find out what does and doesn't work, specifically for us in our environment, because after all, if it looks cool and it sucks when you wear it, it just sucks. So I figured we'd take a minute and look at this through some of the basic stuff we're trying to talk about. So why do you need to shake out your gear? Gear can absolutely create hot spots. It can become uncomfortable. It can also block access to items that you may typically need or try to get out. It can shift and walk on you and move around, and it can even be dangerous. In the case of a plate carrier, there's a very specific one. If that plate bag starts shifting around on your body, you are wearing an 8-pound projectile on your back. That if it's not in the exact right spot, you suddenly don't have ballistic coverage. So that kind of stuff's important. Not to mention it can get you killed when we start talking about things about handguns, rifles, stuff like that. If you are only going to rock your gear and you're only rocking your gear right now for a couple of hours on the range, once a month or twice a month, you are more than likely never going to find any issues in your gear, and you certainly won't find the issues that suddenly arise at about hour 7 or hour 8. Now there's no secret, I spend almost all of my time in gear and equipment. I spend 50-ish plus hours every single week wearing a battle belt. I rock the Blue Alpha Duty Belt Light. Big advocate for that. I'll leave a link over here to that one. I always have that on. I am also always wearing either soft armor or hard armor, and even if I am not at work and I go to the range, I am wearing armor on the range or a pistol belt of some kind or a chest rig. I am always wearing stuff. I am also always vetting equipment, shooting guns, rifles, handguns, whatever. So shaking out my equipment is a large part of what I do. So how do we do it? Well, that's going to vary. It varies a little bit piece to piece of gear. And what gear do we need to have a shakeout done on? All of it. There's nothing you own that is immune from a shakeout session. I can promise you there are faults in your gear, no matter how nice, how expensive, how much money you paid for it, or how cool it looks. There is a fault somewhere that until you're put under an immense amount of pressure and stress or wear it for a very long amount of time, you won't find. Now, somebody in the background is going to be like, well, what the hell do I need to wear armor for 12 or 13 hours? Well, if we're talking about the proverbial shit hitting the said fan and the fact that our country is not exactly going exceptionally well at this moment, you could find yourself in kit full-time tomorrow. Like, we don't know. So that's where we're at. So first and foremost, let's start with one, everybody's favorite, and that is your handgun, right? This is not a secondary weapon. The reason I say that is there is nobody currently right now, even United States military soldiers, unless they are currently in training somewhere, that are carrying a rifle as primary weapon. If you are a citizen of this great nation, you are carrying a handgun as your primary fighting weapon. I have said this before. Treating this like a secondary weapon when it is the thing you're carrying on your person all the time is really, really stupid. Like, this needs to be treated like a primary weapon system, because odds are 99.9% of the time when a self-defense encounter finds you, you will have this. So we need to really take a good look at our handguns. So there are certain modifications that can in fact cause reliabilities of your handguns. For the most part, if you buy a reputable handgun from a reputable manufacturer, think Glock, SIG when they don't go off when they're not supposed to, and SIG when they don't beta test on people. But Glock, even the Springfield Echelon has looked pretty good here recently. CZ is another great company that's out there. But when you start getting into these, they're going to work. The days of yore where like guns required like 700 round break-in are kind of gone, unless you're talking 19 and 2011s. For the most part, the guns are just going to work. until we modify them. Now, I have a whole video on deciding what's important for your handgun, and I'll leave a link to it. Y'all can go check it out. But there are things we need to do to shake this out. Things like a compensator on a handgun. They're awesome, right? But if you want to vet and shake out your comp on your handgun, go out and run flat 115 grain range grade ammunition, right? Nothing plus P, nothing hotter. Just run it, and then go run some plus P, and then go run your duty ammunition through it and get it hot and run the crap out of it. The reason being is because if we're going to start suffering malfunctions in a handgun and a gun system at all, it's usually when we introduce heat into the system, and comps are going to strip away some of that actual force that reciprocates the side, which can cause short stroking issues, going into battery issues, especially if you've done something like modifying your recoil spring. So we need to run the gun hard with a bunch of different ammo to ensure that it works no matter what we do. Optics and iron sights, to be honest, you got to run them, and you got to run them hard use. And when I say hard use, I mean, what does hard use mean? I mean, we're going to use this thing for one-handed manipulations. We're going to smack it into things. Same thing with iron sights. Like I have all my iron sights are metal on my Glocks, and they're all 90-degree shelf. I'll run them off my belt. I'll run them off my boot heel. I'll run them off of my holster. I don't care. I'll run them off of anything I can run them off of, and I'll do the same thing with my optics. What we're looking for with the optics, though, is we want to constantly be checking. Like, we don't have to put up a zero target, but every so often, like, I'll take mine and I'll go over to the side to like an aiming dot that's on the side of my target I'm shooting, and I'll just put 5 rounds into that dot. They should still be going into that dot no matter what. That's verifying that this thing is going to take what I'm giving it and it's going to keep working the way I want it to. And then everything gets witness marked on here. It all gets witness marked because if it moves or shifts, I want a visual indicator that it hasn't moved or that it has moved. Another problem we have with these, and people don't think about it, is lights on a handgun. Lights on a handgun absolutely can and will and do cause malfunctions. Some of you are old enough, some of you are not. But back when the Gen 3 Glocks came out, the Gen 3 Glock 22, it's what I'm issued for work, 40 caliber full-size handgun. They were pretty notorious. If you mounted a light to the front of them, your gun quit working, man. Like, they had serious problems. And it was something as simple as hanging a light on the front of it because it changed the way the gun cycled enough for it to make it not work reliably with factory ammunition. That is by far the most famous malfunctions ever happened when we start talking about lights and handguns. And then we look at all the rest of this stuff, like your extended slide stop, better triggers, connectors, magwell, extended mag releases, the magazines themselves. When we buy extra stuff and we need to vet this stuff and shake it out and make sure it works. With a trigger, we're looking for it to be consistent. If you are pulling the trigger on this thing and dry firing at the range and it starts feeling a little weird between like every few shots, you have a problem with that trigger. That trigger isn't consistent, and that's the one part of the firearm that has to be consistent for us to shoot the same. Slide stop. Now, with a factory slide stop, there are a lot of people, myself included, that because of the way I grip the gun, I would activate a standard slide stop on this and I would engage it while I was shooting. That is shaking something out and being like, man, when I run this gun hard for like 6 rounds, I'm catching that and I'm kicking it loose every time. That's why I have a Cogworks on this, because it gets it out of my way and I don't have a problem hitting it anymore. The magwell. I've had magwells that when you would go to insert the magazine into the firearm, it would catch and stick a little bit. Some of the aftermarket magazine extensions have that little pin in the back, and if you don't have like a relief cut in the back of this thing, you actually won't be able to seat that magazine. You'll have to work on it, but you'll only know that if you go out and run the crap out of it and shake it out. Mag releases can have kind of the same issues. I've had them before that were kind of sticky when I go to run them, and they would stick on the magazine itself. I typically don't see it with Glock mags in this, but like with a SIG, it was pretty prevalent. I would have it stick all the time. And another issue I have with SIG mags, because they're steel, was if I was running steel case 9mm like range ammo for plinking, which I had to do during 2020 because it was harder to find, and I was using that USA Forge stuff from Winchester, it would stick inside of the magazine so bad that the follower would just be like stuck and the rounds would be turned like vertical inside of the magazine. It was terrible. But that was a shaking out thing. That didn't happen until I got a little bit of dirt in the system when I was out shooting one day, and I was at about 400 rounds for the day, and then that damn thing started sticking, and I'm like, holy crap, and it did it every time after that. But I introduced a little heat into it, and I found a new problem. And then magazines themselves. magazines themselves, you'll have them stick inside of the grip. Pretty notorious in Glock, because Glock were running a polymer frame with a polymer magazine. Polymer on polymer does not drop as freely as a steel magazine would in this polymer thing. If you have an aluminum or a steel magazine, it'll drop free all the time. Same thing, we have a metal frame gun, polymer fires right out of it. But you can run into an issue, Glock mags, it becomes very prevalent, where you'll get funk and stuff built up on the outside of these mags, and it'll actually stick inside of the pistol grip of the handgun itself. It's kind of a pain. But you only find that stuff if you go out and run the crap out of it and shake it out. So now we talked about everybody's other favorite part of this equation, which is your rifle. If we start talking about your rifle, sorry, I'm sitting stuff down. The biggest thing we can do with a rifle is we got to go out, we got to get it really, really hot, and we need to check for accuracy in selected patterns. We need to do it cold, we need to do it like warm, and we need to do it hot. Because here's the thing, if your gun, if it gets over a certain round count and starts vertically stringing all your rounds, you need to know that is a problem. And the only way to know that is if you go out and run the gun hard and figure it out. But there's some stuff that you need to ask yourself. If you go out on the range and you burn down, like I recommend everybody take at least one really heavy course of fire course, like 1 or 2 days, 1,000 rounds or plus or minus more, handgun and rifle. It's great for you with your chosen equipment because we're practically inducing all of the stuff that we try to do on the range, but we're going to do it at somebody else's pace. And what you're going to find is with a rifle, you can actually sit back when you look at it at the end of that course. How does that stock, rail, handguard, and your grip feel? If you got hot spots, blisters, or it felt funky in your shoulder, or your cheek didn't sit right on it, you might need to change something, but you'll only know it if we shake your gear out. Is your neck sore? Are parts of your body sore? Is your wrist sore because the angle's too extreme on your pistol grip? That happens all the time. People have these super high mounts, and because of the way their stock is set up, they actually don't work together, so they're constantly doing this, and it hurts their neck over the course of a couple of days and a couple thousand rounds. You won't know it unless you go run the crap out of the gun. And while you're running it hard at the range and during dry fire at home, have you had any kind of an issue with how the trigger felt? Did the safety feel weird at any point? Did the safety not lock in? Did it not do this? Did it not do that? If you have those issues, if they show up once, they will show up again somewhere else. The problem is we can't predict when it is because it was a weird intermittent issue. You need to figure it out immediately. Like, man, my safety's not going on right, and then it clicks on. Stop what you're doing, get down inside of the gun, figure out what that safety got hung on, because it may be something that'll stop it in the middle of a fight 20 minutes from now, which I'm going to get to in a second. And then something else I like to think about, and I've had this happen mainly with shorter guns, if I am on the range and I am shooting, if I'm wincing when I shoot, that is because the concussion force off that rifle is so loud my ear pro isn't cutting it. Something I need to know. Or I've got so much gas in my face that it's hard for me to focus and my eyes are watering because I'm getting gas blowback in the face. These are things that I can fix, but I will only notice they're a problem if I really run the gun hard and shake that gun out. Optics. These are big ones, especially with rifles. We need to know, will it hold zero when it's hot, when it's cold, after a bunch of recoil, if it gets smacked on something, does it work? Do your turrets track in like an actual magnified optic? And what that means is, does it RTZ or return to zero? And does it do it accurately? One of the ways I'll test that with my guns specifically is I'll go out and I'll shoot at 100 yards, and then I will dial in on my thing to get me out to 800 yards. Then I will dial back to 6, back to 8, and then back to my 0, which should be at 100 yards. That thing should put the bullets on top of the initial bullets into my first round, and that's because that thing's supposed to track. Because what you'll find sometimes on some optics is that quarter-minute click that you're looking at, or 1/10 of a mil, is actually like 0.11 of a mil sometimes. Sometimes it's 0.28 MOA and not 0.25 MOA. And what that means is when you go up and then down, and the worst part could be is maybe it's not consistent all the way through, and your zero is just off. And because you don't dial a lot and mess with it, you didn't actually shake that piece of gear out, and it doesn't work when you need it to. Also, another thing to look at, handguns and rifles when you run a dot, is how bright do you need that dot in the daytime? Does it get bright enough for you to see in the daytime? What about at night? You should already know what it needs to be clicked to at night. What about white light? If you got a white light out, worst case scenario, where does your setting need to be? Does it get bright enough for you to do it? If you just put an optic on your gun and you shoot it just in the daytime in the shade, you're never going to find that out. Another big one, and this one's always been a big one for me, and that's mainly because I'm a knife person. I like knives. So we talk about knives, right? This is my my Bark River Bravo 1 and A2 tool steel. Love this knife. Chunky. Knives. Opening a box when your Amazon stuff comes in isn't using a knife. Go out and make some feather sticks with it. Carve some tent pegs. Carve some notches. Look at, I can't remember who makes it. I think it's TA Outdoors, does a bushcraft channel. Go look at his channel. Learn some knife skills. Go out and use your knife. And then when you use it, figure out if you got any weird hot spots in your hand where you've used this thing. Another great thing you can do is how long did the edge hold and how easy is it for you to get the edge back? And then understand, like, sometimes knives don't do other things great. Here's the thing. The Bravo 1 is not a great knife if I needed to defend myself. This Street Bowie from Spyderco would be awesome if I needed to defend myself, but it's terrible for doing campcraft stuff because of the handle. But I only know that because I went out and I tried it and it sucked. So, and then we move on to the gear you wear. Chest rigs, belts, plate carriers. Chest rigs, load the crap out of it. Even overload that thing. Put a bunch of stuff on it and then go out and wear it doing normal everyday tasks. Go do the laundry, mow your yard, wash your car, sit around and watch TV, go ride in the car with your friends, push your kids on the swing, go for a jog, go for a hike. I don't care what you do. Go out and do something that is mundane and normal everyday task. Because what's going to happen is the more time that you spend in that piece of gear, you're going to find things that don't work or need to be moved because that doesn't actually work for what you thought it would work for, even though it looked cool when you set it up, but you'll never know because you didn't spend enough time doing normal stuff in your gear that it worked. Then moving on to plate carriers. This is a huge one for me and I harp on this all of the time. More than any other piece of equipment that you need to shake out, you need to shake out a plate carrier. Just due to the sheer amount of weight and its design to begin with. It is designed to stop bullets from impacting a specific part of your body. And it's heavy as hell. So when we start doing this, little bitty issues that aren't an issue on a chest rig, like, that's a little weird, but it doesn't really bother me. Those things bother the crap out of you with plate carrier on. I've seen things as small as a shoulder strap being unevenly lengthened sized by about 1/4 of an inch or 1/2 of an inch, and over the course of an 8 or 9 hour day on the range, that plate carrier was sitting weird, and it started making the guy's neck hurt and his traps hurt because it was wearing the weight on different places on his body. He would have never known that until he spent 8 or 9 hours on the range. And then the platform itself can be unstable. And what I mean by that is if you run, you move into a position, you move, and that plate swishes on your body, that's an awful feeling, man. So this one, more than anything else, do everyday stuff. Do the laundry, do the dishes, cook dinner, go grill, go for a walk with your kids, ride a bicycle, ride around in your car. Wear it when you go to the gym. That's totally normal nowadays. Wear it when you go on a hike. Go on a ruck march. Go do something that is normal, everyday, mundane in your gear, and do it like when you're doing normal stuff with the carry-on. Because here's the thing, in addition to helping you identify all those weird little things that suck, that make that thing suck, you will also develop better stamina and better strength so that if you actually have to wear this stuff, it's not going to be as bad on your system because you've worn it for quite a bit of time. The belt is going to be the same way for me. So if we start talking about a belt, say even something like my Blue Alpha Battle Belt Light right here, if we start talking about that belt, something as small as me sitting on my couch in this belt will tell me if this IFAK is too big, right? It can tell me that. It can help me identify that issue, not only with how much stuff is on it, but where that stuff is, because that may be causing a problem all by its freaking self. But more than anything right now, you need to wear that belt in conjunction with things like your plate carrier, your chest rig. You need to do that because they work in conjunction. And I will tell you from personal experience, one of my newer belts that Core Essentials sent me, there's a Core Essentials video, I'll leave it over here. When I was on the range, I noticed that because of the way my plate carrier was set up, it was impeding my ability to get to those mags. I did not notice it until I had been on the range for 5 hours. I fixed it after that though. Same thing when we start talking about the in conjunction stuff, your plate carrier, like this is mine, this is my LB6094 SRT. I love this plate carrier. It's awesome. I will be the first person, I'll leave a link to the video for this. I love this carrier, it's my favorite one. Here's the thing though. This sucks to wear with an assault pack or with a rucksack, but it works great with an assault pack. Something you only know if you go out and do it. But you also need to take this equipment that we're talking about, plate carriers, rucksacks, chest rigs, belts. You need to wear it when it's hot. You need to wear it when it's cold. You need to wear it outside when it's snowing, and you need to wear it when it's raining. Because you need to make note of the issues and correct them immediately when you find them, right? As soon as you can, fix that thing that's causing that problem. And if you feel a problem, here's the thing. This is uncomfortable, cumbersome, and heavy to wear. But if it's sized and set up correctly to your frame, it is not uncomfortable, and you can wear it for extremely long periods of time. And does it suck? Yeah, of course. I have like 20 pounds of shit strapped on my chest. Yeah, it's going to suck. But it can suck a whole lot worse if I've got something a half inch off somewhere that I'm not catching. And the biggest thing I'll leave you with when it comes to shaking out your gear, your handguns, your rifles, your plate carriers that you're in love with, and your belts and chest rigs, do not put this off. Because the day that you actually need to strap this on and go to work could be tomorrow. And if you haven't taken the time, because I'll do it next week, that is the most toxic, cancerous thing that exists in our society. Do I have to do it now? Can I do it later? I'll do it next week. I'll do it in just a little bit. I'll do it after I eat dinner. Oh crap, I didn't get to that tonight. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow, and then you forget about it again, and it becomes backburnered for like a week. Then you go to the range and like, God, this thing sucks. And it's because you didn't take 2 seconds to fix your stuff. Don't let the day that you realize, like, man, I really wish I'd have spent like a little bit of time and done the thing that Freedom said to do, because it made everything about my tactical kit and me training on the range and being a better marksman, a better shooter, a better protector of the good people around me. And now I need all of this stuff on because the world just decided to go pear-shaped overnight, and you're kind of on your own, and now none of your crap fits right. And I can promise you, in a real stressful, high-threat environment, you don't want to figure out you should have resized your plate carrier when you had time, when nobody was trying to shoot you. So guys, hopefully you found this informative. Take care of yourself, take care of each other, and until next time, I'll see you later.